Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar comic review. This one is going to be for Avatar The Last Airbender, the Rift Omnibus Edition. So this book has only recently come out. I think the release date was actually last week, but obviously it was a bit delayed in getting it. But either way, here we have it, the Omnibus Edition of the third Avatar comic. We have it right here. So here's a quick look at the front cover. Of course, we'll quickly do some analysis on this. Brand new Team Gurihuru cover. They've come back and they did the Avatar comics from the Promise all the way up until North and South. And they've come back to do new covers for all of the Omnibus editions. So Toph central on the cover, because of course this is sort of her comic. She gets to be the sort of standout main character, but Aang also has a pretty noted plot of his own in this book. Katara, of course, is in it as well. You have the Toph's metal bending students down here, and then Sokka over here. So really cool collection of characters that really fit what's going on with the book without kind of delving more into perhaps characters that people wouldn't immediately recognize straight off the bat. In that I was kind of wondering like, oh, might they put Toph's father on the cover? But, you know, they went more for the younger characters, which makes complete sense. Back cover is just an edit of some of the images from the book together. And then on the spine, we of course continue our spine image that we're creating, which I'll get to shortly. So, about the only other thing to note about just the book from the outside is that it's a good bit thicker than the Promise and the Search Omnibus. I'll just put it up next to one of them and you can sort of get a sense for it there. You can clearly see the Rift is like quite a bit thicker. I think, as I'll get into in my analysis later on, showing this in the image editing software, it's for the spine image, but you can see that it's kind of noticeable how much thicker it is. If we take a look at sort of just the binding and so on, the way they achieved this, even though both books technically have the same number of pages, is just that I suppose the number of sort of bundles of pages that makes up the binding is nearly like double on the Rift, even though, you know, it's just the same number of pages. It's pretty interesting to just note that anyway. So the immediate question you probably have is, okay, that's what the book looks like. It's the Rift. But what is an Omnibus Edition? I feel like I need to explain this in all of these videos. The Omnibus Edition is the cheap collected edition of the Rift. The Rift originally came out as 3 individual, pretty small books. So the Rift Part 1, the Rift Part 2, and the Rift Part 3. These 3 books together make the full Rift trilogy. So with this book, which is obviously the same size as these ones except for thickness, is, you know, this is a 3-in-1 at the same general size format. It's just thicker. So that's the basic description between these. But this book has some extras, because the other way the Rift came out was as the Rift Library Edition. As you can see here, much bigger book. Much bigger book. It's a hardcover book and so on. Much bigger in size. But they all feature the same story. You get the same 216 pages of story across all of them. The individual parts, of course, have the least amount of content in that there's no extras beyond the story. These two do have some extras. So, what you get that's common to both of these is the 10 or so pages of art extras towards the back. The Omnibus Edition does kind of an interesting thing. The Search did this, the Promise didn't. The Promise just left out 1 page of extras, but the Search and the Rift Omnibus make up for the fact that I guess their page count is limited by pretty much just 1. They make up for it by basically editing 2 of the pages of extras from the Library Edition together so that you get all those extra pages in the book. So when you finish the story of the Rift, what you get is obviously the covers of each of the individual parts, the kind of clean art So you do get a look at the art from each of the individual parts in the omnibus, which I think is really cool because they're really nice covers. And then it gets, like I said, into these art extra pages. Very nice. The one difference between the library edition, and I'll show you this stuff in the library edition, is this page. So the page where they go over Old Iron's concept art, you can see here there's like what, 6 images of him here in the omnibus. But if we get to the same pages in the library edition, they split that one page up into 2. So yeah, whoops. So you can see it there. There's 4 of those images of Old Iron. Then if we turn the page, there's the other 2. So they just have, you know, shrunken those 2 pages down a little bit to fit them in there. Now, what is in the library edition that isn't in the omnibus? That's the other question. The only extra, in addition to just the book being bigger, it being a hardcover, is basically this. So in the library edition, you obviously get these bigger pages, but you'll notice the gaps on the side of the pages. And that is because all of the library editions do have annotations. So you can see one of the annotations there on the side. So the creators of the comic write in little notes at different stages of the story, giving insight into the art, characters, stuff like that. But the problem with it, it's something I've always had a problem with, is that you saw it took me a little while there to find randomly a page from the book that actually had these annotations. Yet every single page in the book has the giant borders on the sides and the top and bottom. So it prevents the book from being all the way out to the edge. It prevents this big hardcover book from having the art as big as possible. The Rift is the worst offender across all of the library editions in that it only features annotations on 36 pages out of a possible 216. 72 pages per book times 3, 216 pages where there theoretically could be annotations, and it's only on 36 pages. And most of them are really short, like little one-line comments, and there's only like 1 or 2 that are actually like a paragraph or 2. Nothing actually fills up the full border ever. And I'm saying this just for the perspective of, I would not value the as like the only thing that is like inherently new that you don't get in the omnibus and you do get in this, it is those annotations. I would not value them particularly highly. So I would not make my sole buying decision of which version I get the fact that this book has annotations. I would more or less treat those annotations as just being a pure, just complete extra, because outside of maybe 1 or 2, I'd say I could count on my hands, like literally there's maybe 10 annotations across the 6 books that have annotations, like hundreds of annotations. 10 of them feel kind of interesting, important. Most of them are just kind of like, oh, that's cool. But again, a lot of it is just anyone could have said that comment in the annotations. So I really would not value the annotations that highly at all. The other thing for anyone wondering is that you don't actually get this image of the library edition cover anywhere in the omnibus, which I suppose is a little bit of a missed opportunity, but I do also appreciate that they're sort of keeping this cover unique to the sort of deluxe library edition. So that's that. Other than that, the book, as you would expect it, is more or less the individual parts just all thrown together. There's no break between the end of one part going into the next. You literally just straight up do the transition. So let me get to the page, so to the 70s here. And as you can see there, literally one side of the page is the cliffhanger ending to one book. The next page is the first page of part 2. So they don't insert the covers or anything like that. Like I said, the covers you get at the back. So that is the core of what this book is as a kind of physical thing. Pricing is $24.99 US dollars, but if you order it online, you are probably going to get this much closer to 20, and I think some places you can probably even find it for more like 16, 17, 18. The way that this has gone in the past has tended to be that the initial run sort of sells out kind of straight away, but then it comes back into stock. So don't be worried if you see that this is out of stock everywhere. It's going to stay in print. I think Dark Horse have confirmed that they're going to try to basically keep all of the formats of the comics in print. So omnibus, individual parts, and library editions are all going to be kept in print and available. It's just, obviously, there will be delays and kind of breaks between like when they get around to doing reprints of individual books. But honestly, I would at this point say that there's pretty much no reason to get the individual parts unless you just want to have all of the individual Avatar comics. From a collector's point of view, I think your decision is literally just between these two. And probably, like I do every video here, this is your decision, I think. Do you go for the smaller book that's cheaper, that has most of what's in this book, but is maybe sort of a slightly lower quality because it's the kind of collected edition, omnibus? Or do you go for the deluxe hardcover that looks really, really cool, has really nice feeling pages, you get the art slightly bigger, and the annotations are there if you value them. Me personally, I don't value the annotations that much, and I say that as someone who likes to go in depth on Avatar. I really don't think the style of commentary that they have in the annotations is what most fans are looking for, and so it ends up feeling rather standard. So I wouldn't value that too highly. Like I said, the art extras at the back are the same outside of the way 2 pages are edited from the library edition going into the omnibus, which I showed off there. And yeah, then the one thing that the omnibus has that the library editions don't is the spine image that is created as you collect your omnibus editions. So there's 3 of them together. You can see we're forming an image here. And so what I'm going to do now is cut to my image editing software, and we're going to do a little bit of analysis on this to see where we're at with the image that we are building and how many more books it's going to take to complete it. Okay, so here we are with some analysis here of the spine image. This is just a kind of fun thing to do while we're going through it here to see what they've done to the original image to make it fit over the spines. So the original image, of course, is the North and South Library Edition cover, which I have here as the background. I've then imported in the picture that I took of my copies of the 3 omnibuses released so far over it, and I roughly sized them so that they are accurate. So the thing I did the judging on was basically the size of Katara's sleeve here. So you can see here it's pretty accurate. It fits over it. The image may be slightly bigger, but you can see here there's roughly Katara's position in the images, and you can get a sense for what they've done. They've slightly moved Toph in on the side so she fits more and is in the center basically of the Promise omnibus spine image. They place Katara's hand here, so that means the rest of her has to be here, and so on. One thing you can also see that they've done is that they've brought Sokka like way across. Aang across also as well, because Aang's positioning is more like here. And they've brought him all the way like over here. And similarly, Sokka, as you can see here, if we line it up with him, it gives you a sense for how much of a kind of gap really that there is, the difference between Katara's arms here and here. So yeah, this more or less I think tells us how the other 2 books are going to line up here. You can see the size of the Rift spine, of course, is a good bit thicker than the size of these 2, as you can see here. I don't think they're going to need this, because if you do 2 of these, like, you're way out here and there's going to be a bunch of blank space on the North and South omnibus when they get to it. So I'm thinking that this box is just the size of like one of the normal ones. So you can see 2 of them roughly gets us like pretty perfectly Zuko in shot plus the rest of Sokka. So I think that's what they're going to do. They just have the rift sort of slightly wider with the way they did the binding to make the center of the image, basically. So that I think helps to explain some of this. So yeah, I don't know. They might move Zuko across a little bit, but other than that, it seems like, yeah, this is what they're doing. I'd be really shocked if there's something like a surprise reveal that actually, like, they've included an image of Suki here or something like that. That would be cool, but it would surprise me at this point. Again, they have edited out this sort of snowy background for North and South to just have it be a more plain image, but that makes sense. And the main question you have coming out of this is, of course, there's 6 Avatar comic trilogies. How is Imbalance Omnibus going to work? Because, okay, you're going to have the first 5 books, the Jean Yang era writing the comics, the Team Gurihuru era on art. They'll have their spine image represented by their last library edition cover. Starting from Imbalance, is it going to be like a new image? Because I'm guessing what they're going to do is that we're going to eventually get, okay, Imbalance Omnibus, we're going to get a library edition and an omnibus collecting the first 3 one-shots together, because, you know, they're the exact same page count as all the other books. It's the same creative team as Imbalance. There's no way they're not going to collect those 3 books together, so they'll get collected editions as well. So are we starting a new spine image starting with Imbalance that will have a Peter Wortman kind of larger piece of art across the books? And I'm wondering what they'll do there. Will it be the Imbalance cover or something new? That could be very interesting to see. But they obviously would have to stay on board for multiple books to make that happen. So that's going to be very interesting. Obviously, we are not going to find out what the deal is really until the release of the Imbalance Omnibus, because we never get like preview images of the outside of the book or the spine. So someone's going to have to get their copy of the Imbalance Omnibus to see what's on the spine. It would be weird to me if it was just a more generic spine, that like we end this really cool group image across the spines and then it just cuts over to something else. But you know, it is what it is, of course. So yeah, other than that, I guess back to the video. Okay, so there's the analysis of the spine image. I hope you enjoyed that. And I'm just going to round off with just a little bit of discussion about the Rift itself as a story. This is more a review of the product that is the specific omnibus edition of the Search rather than the Search story itself. I would refer you to just search on my channel for the various times I've discussed the Rift. I think there's multiple like podcasts and review videos that I've done covering my thoughts on the Rift. But in general, what I'd say is that 3 comics in, The Promise, The Search, The Rift, it's 3 for 3 for Avatar comics. I think they started off so well with these 3 comics. You can tell that there was definitely a plan that they wanted to actually cover some important content, and the Rift definitely continues that. Having Toph take up the sort of main character spot here, addressing her relationship with her father, which was one of the main like open plot threads for a main character that you don't get answers to at the end of ATLA. It's Zuko's mom and Toph's parents. They're the 2 things that are set up within the show, but there's no resolution for. So this book actually has a big thing of like coming back to that. And I think they do a really good job with it, because obviously the premise of the book is that they end up sort of coming across this new factory that ends up being run by Toph's father, and so you get the reunion between those 2 characters. But it also places Toph and Aang into conflict because the factory has been built on ground, a location that has been in the past, historically, been a kind of sacred ground location for air nomads. And so there's this really interesting debate between sort of like advancement versus sort of, you know, spirituality and tradition, and how that affects sort of both characters. Of like, Toph doesn't like the fact that she kind of grew up always being told, you have to do this way, that's just how it's done. Whereas Aang as a character is trying to maintain the air nomads, and it kind of brings up the point of, should he just bring it back as it was, or should he try to kind of maybe do a more modern spin on it? But there's always a sense of like, he does have to teach what it was in the past to keep it alive, and so there's an interesting kind of contrast there. Aang also has a really cool plot where Avatar Yang Chen is trying to contact him about like a threat that she dealt with, that now Aang is going to have to kind of explore once again. And that has really interesting connotations if you have read The Shadow of Kyoshi, and you take the information about Yang Chen from that and apply it here. That all works really well to add depth to Yang Chen as a character. Plus, the Metalbending students are back. If you like them, this is the book where I think they start to get more development, and they go from being very one-note characters to being more interesting characters. And even Katara and Sokka have a little plot, like very much the sort of C plot of the book, but it's something quite interesting that reflects the sort of era that we're in, with the nations coming together and them meeting some people from their tribe in a kind of unexpected location, and just a little bit of an issue coming up. And there's a bunch of other nice references throughout it as well. So overall, like, I would highly recommend The Rift. The first 3 omnibuses cover 3 incredible Avatar stories, and I really think it is like Smoke and Shadow onwards where the comics maybe start to develop a little bit more of some more flaws, and they maybe just start tackling less interesting content. But we'll discuss that when those omnibuses come out. I don't have any problem though with the first 3 omnibuses for sure. So really cool releases so far. Pretty nice books as well. So there's most of what I have to say about them there. And the last thing to say is a thank you to my patrons who have supported me on Patreon, including some new ones this time out. So we have Therion, Moss, Antoine, Cash D's, Super Duper 37, Joel, Nicholas, Brittany, Jasper, and Lee. So yeah, just a quick reminder about my Patreon for anyone who isn't aware. It's linked in the description of all of my videos, including this one. If you come in at the $3 tier, you get access to my Patreon exclusive videos, which include a couple of video game videos. I recently put up one of me playing Destiny 2. I have a Hitman 3 video, a Hitman 2 video. I think Rocket League I have up there, and I think another one. I have some videos of me building Lego. I think I have some video of me opening some Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. Plus some like anime movie reviews and stuff like that. Just different types of videos that I don't usually do on my channel because I think they'd be a little bit kind of maybe too random. But you can see some of those extra type of videos up there. If you come in at the $5 tier, you also get access to the videos, but you get to suggest an avatar topic for me to do in a video. So I will do that one that you choose, as long as I feel I can actually do it pretty well. And then the final tier I have is the $10 tier. So if you come in at the $10 tier, you obviously get to choose a topic for a video, but you can be on the video with me. So we'll do that like over Skype. It'd basically be like a podcast about your chosen topic, and that's the way it would be done. So they're the options for my Patreon. So check that out in the description if you wish. But yeah, that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.